Thanks very much for inviting us to speak today. It's labeled as a keynote, but actually we are hoping to learn a lot from you as we are at the beginning of our process. My partner in crime, Willeke, Bert, could not be here today, unfortunately, due to unexpected health reasons, but we worked out this presentation together and are looking forward to hearing back from you. Thanks also to the other co-presenters today, and I hope that this somehow fits into a picture for you. So just to set the scene a little bit, our question is, what are meaningful ways for diverse actors to share, develop, and exchange resources in order to create and sustain caring, resilient neighborhoods? We're thinking, as our title suggests, is it building a bridge, partnering, having power, sharing power? Is it breaching, where there's dominance and there's power over? We're at the start, we have many questions, and we're going to just touch on a few of those things today, give you a little bit of background about the context, and we're going to end with what we specifically hope you can address in the World Cafe later. So things like, is it possible to share power? What about power imbalances, individuals versus organizations? How social does an organization that we work with have to be? What is safe for people to be involved? How does this fit in with notions of development in cities, because private developments impinge on public life? What about colonization, gentrification? Is it just another name? Is the commons really inclusive? Many, many questions. We know we cannot address all of them. We come to you as part of the Menage Project, which is funded by Innoviris. We work with several partners and are specifically focused on the neighborhoods of the Notre-Dame-aux-Neiges and the Martelar-Martyr neighborhood in the center of Brussels in the Pentagon, as it is known. Our project is based on looking at caring neighborhoods in what we call a hybrid neighborhood, where there are not as many residents and many users of the neighborhoods, and is a co-research. So we are part of a team of other research, as I said, and at the core of our research, we're trying to make a basic distinction between neighborhood users and neighborhood residents, but we want to see if we can bring them together. These neighborhoods users have a more permanent presence, like organizations, profit and nonprofit organizations, commuters, students. There's also people with a more transient presence, such as shoppers, tourists, and people passing through the neighborhoods. So obviously there's different levels of engagement and involvement with neighborhood users. Over the last 2 years, we've been struggling with the fundamental distinction and what people can do, residents, users, how can they be involved in these caring neighborhoods, which there's already quite a lot of knowledge about. But today's keynote is not about those users, but actually about a specific neighborhood user whose presence is largely invisible, but has a major impact on both users and residents. And we're thinking specifically about private development companies that plan and execute large-scale development projects. You can see some in process here, and we will come to more later. So to give a little context, the impact of invisible players in the neighborhood and the impact of development on the neighborhood, both during the building and after, it affects public space and it has an intangible impact on the neighborhood. So for instance, gentrification, rents can increase. What infrastructure is available? Is it overused? And this happens on quite a high level. Through addressing these questions and working with different actors, as research, we could risk entrenching or replicating existing power imbalances. This is one of our concerns. On the other hand, we sense that residents and other users actively want to address issues raised by these invisible actors. So if the definition and scope of caring is left to neighborhood residents within the sort of caring cities and communities model, we might lose sight of the impact and responsibility of multinationals, which are experienced as alienating and colonizing, and we're trying to find our way in between. So we're in the preparatory stage of this problem, and we wonder how we can position ourselves as engaged researchers and research institutions in such circumstances. Can we enter into this investigation or experimentation in a secure way for the residents, for the users, for ourselves, for the projects? Is it possible to collaborate with and not be taken over by a commercial company? Is it desirable to co-create with these kinds of companies? Should we go ahead? Should we try to build bridges, or should we build dams? Can we do both at the same time? Some of the key thoughts we want to address come from the commons literature and through activism that we have, the literature we've looked at. We found here a schematic representation of the social economy, where we find ourselves in the area between the civil economy and the market. So where are we here? If we take the specific neighborhood as a starting point, there is currently little common in practice in the neighborhoods, few common pool resources. However, a few small groups of residents and users are defending trees, historical values of buildings, and these people are activists. They have a lot of education, a high cultural value, and take their place in the world. But are we giving voice to people who already have one? So this is the point that we're struggling with. Can we experiment in this, or do we risk co-optation? So the starting point we would like you to look at today is commercial actors are important in many neighborhoods. Property developers are one example. Property developers are active and they have an impact on many areas of life. That's just true. Some developers claim to be socially engaged at this point, and residents and users, individuals, have an opinion about these and will be impacted. So the question we would like you to look at in your groups today is, would you work with a socially engaged property developer in your neighborhood? Why or why not? Or if you want to take a different perspective as a researcher or a project worker, why or why not? We have here a few bullet points to guide the discussion. These will be handed out to you as well, where we look at what is socially engaged enough to work with and how could we do this safely. Thank you very much, and we look forward to hearing what you have to say.